Come on, Karen. Pick up the phone, Elliot said worriedly. The wedding ceremony is starting and yet his wife-to-be Karen was nowhere to be seen. Elliot tried calling her for the umpteenth time, but to no avail. Just then, the phone rang. It was Karen's voice at the end of the line. Where are you? I'm glad you called back. I'm so worried about you, Elliot muttered in relief. Oh, Elliot, said Karen nonchalantly. I'm sorry, Chad got into an accident, so I need to be by his side. Can we postpone the wedding? Hearing this, Elliot became furious. Do you have any idea what day this is? He shouted. All the guests have already arrived, and even my superiors are present. I already told you that this wedding will determine whether I will get promoted. But now you are running away from our wedding because of that male friend of yours. Do you know it will jeopardize my career? Instead of trying to apologize, Karen became angry. Elliot Chan, how can you say such a thing like that? She shouted. You can get promoted any time, but Chad needs my help, and you're asking me to ignore him. How can you be so selfish? Besides, I've already agreed to marry you. Isn't that enough? Listen carefully, Karen. If you insist on being with Chad, it'll be over between us, Elliot warned, but this irked Karen. I already told you Chad needs my help. Why can't you understand that? You're being unreasonable. With that, she hung up the phone. Subsequently, Karen became uncontactable. What am I supposed to do now? Elliot said with a sigh. The guests have already arrived. How am I supposed to explain to them about holding a wedding with no bride? Just then, he heard someone call him. Elliot turned around and saw his university classmate Nancy. I have an odd offer, she stated. Will you marry me? Elliot was shocked by the proposal. Why would you want to do that? He asked. Don't worry, it's not a real marriage. My parents have been pressing me to get married. This wedding is a deciding factor in your career advancement, right? I'll guide you on what to do, Nancy said. Elliot reluctantly agreed. He made an urgent request to change the name of the bride. The guests were whispering amongst themselves, apparently confused over the change in name of the bride. Elliot delivered his speech, affirming his marriage to Nancy. After the wedding, Elliot's parents asked him what was going on. Elliot brought them aside and told them everything. Elliot's parents expressed their disapproval of Karen's actions, but at the same time, advised him to treat Nancy well. During their first night, Elliot told Nancy everything about Karen and Chad. As a matter of fact, Chad was a male friend of Karen's, and they had known each other since young. It was not the first time Karen had prioritized Chad over Elliot. In fact, Karen would side with Chad every time he and Elliot got into a conflict. Elliot recounted an incident where he had sewn a scarf for Karen, which Chad ended up wearing. When he confronted Chad about it, he simply said that Karen lent the scarf to him when he remarked how beautiful it was. Chad then threw the scarf onto the floor, which Karen saw, and Chad falsely accused Elliot of forcefully taking the scarf off him. As usual, Karen took Chad's side without listening to Elliot's side of the story, accusing him of being petty. Elliot thought of breaking up with her, but gave her another chance after Karen promised to keep a distance from Chad. After that, Karen stopped keeping in contact with Chad as she promised, but ran away from the wedding to keep him company after Chad claimed to have met with an accident. This incident was the last straw for Elliot, and he decided to end things with Karen. After hearing his story, Nancy felt sorry for him. She patted him on his shoulder, promising to make up for the hurt caused to him by Karen and Chad. After the wedding, Elliot was promoted to managerial level. He was continuously recognized by his superiors for his hard work, resulting in his significant career progression. Elliot realized his success is attributed to Nancy, whom he started to develop feelings for. He also realized Nancy was a far cry from Karen. Unlike Karen, who never lifted a finger to help, Nancy helped his parents around the house voluntarily. When they went to Nancy's parents' house for dinner that weekend, they welcomed him. Elliot saw his favorite dishes, which he found surprising, as he had never interacted with them previously. When Elliot went to Nancy's bedroom, he saw the scarf which he had sewn for Karen. It was neatly folded and hung on the clothes hanger. How did the scarf end up here? He wondered. Just then, Nancy entered the bedroom. So you managed to find out, she concluded. She confessed that she had liked Elliot for quite some time when they were in university, but gave him up back then as he already had a girlfriend, so when Karen ran away from the wedding to keep Chad company, she realized that it was a chance for her to be with Elliot. Upon hearing Nancy's revelation, Elliot revealed that he started developing feelings for her after knowing her for the past few days. They embraced. A few days later, Nancy was preparing breakfast when the doorbell rang. "Let me get the door," Elliot volunteered. He opened the door and saw Karen. She walked towards him to give him a hug, but he stretched his hand out to stop her. "What do you want?" Elliot asked irritably. "I thought you're busy with that male friend of yours." "What heart? What are you talking about?" Karen feigned ignorance. "I've come to marry you." "You've got to be kidding me," Elliot snorted with laughter. "I already warned you that if you insist on being with Chad, you and I are done. You gave up our wedding to be with him, and so it's over between us." Just then, Nancy appeared at the door. "Dear, who's that?" she asked. Before Elliot could answer, Karen blurted out that she is Elliot's girlfriend, and asked Nancy to stay away from Elliot. "I would urge you to have some respect, Karen," Elliot addressed her sternly. "You already chose Chad back then, and I'm now a married man. Leave before I call the police." "You heard my husband," Nancy added. "Go away." With that, she slammed the door. The next day, there was a knock on the door. Elliot opened the door and saw police officers, who wanted to look for him and Nancy. They were shocked to find out that Karen and Chad reported them for entering a sham marriage. Elliot and Nancy explained everything that had happened to date. Friends and relatives from both Elliot and Nancy's sides also testified that their relationship is no different from a married couple. Just then, Elliot and Nancy received a message from the Housing Development Board, which stated that their shared application for a flat has been approved, which further debunked Karen and Chad's claims of them entering a sham marriage. Elliot and Nancy were cleared of all charges, while Karen and Chad were arrested for making false statements to the police. As Elliot and Nancy left the police station, Elliot suggested registering their marriage, which Nancy readily agreed to. The following year, they welcomed twins, a boy and a girl.